All right, two players in the NBA right now that have been taking the league by storm on the most improved player type basis. And this was somewhat of expected when we were predicting the most improved players, but not really on the highest list of ours. So around 7 games have been passed in the NBA for each NBA team. There are 2 players that are going to lead for the most improved player award as of for right now, and been taking the league by storm by their highlights and let alone consistent play, either on their new teams or a new role when it comes down to it. So for number 1, we're going to head over to Boston and cover Mr. Jaylen Brown. A little recap on Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's been in the NBA for around 4 seasons. This is his 5th. He was drafted 3rd overall by the Boston Celtics in the 2016 NBA draft. There's a couple boos during that time period, but he knew the pressure, he knew everything to take upon, and he's a very composed young cat when it comes down to it. When it comes to Jaylen Brown, his first season, he was listed as a small forward. That's when Isaiah Thomas was pretty much top 5 in MVP for the Boston Celtics. They were a first seed. Jaylen Brown came off the bench, and because of that, by him only playing around 17 minutes a game, he only averaged around 6 points. Did not get a lot of opportunities with Brad Stevens, but we all knew that he would have a lot of potential. In the 2017-2018 NBA season, that's when whenever the Boston Celtics went another direction of bringing in Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward was out pretty much the whole season, and Kyrie Irving was out for the playoffs. So that led more of an opportunity of a rookie Jason Tatum and a sophomore Jaylen Brown to really expose himself into the spotlight. That team under Brad Stevens had a bunch of young, gritty, young cats like Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum to lead the way for the Boston Celtics to make the conference finals against LeBron James and the crew. Now credit, they did lose Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Boston Celtics really had an opportunity there for Jaylen Brown, and he took advantage of it. Now, he played 30 minutes a game that season, and he boosted his point percentage to 14.5 points per game. The next following season, in his 3rd season, he was 22 years of age in the 2019 NBA season. Jaylen Brown, pretty much in this opportunity, we saw the Boston Celtics it was a show. It was a show to say the least. Gordon Hayward was healthy, so was Kyrie Irving, and that team was around 10 or 11 deep. So Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, they didn't really have the opportunities because you had to pretty much defer to Kyrie, defer to Gordon Hayward. Of course, Jason Tatum was one of the main players as well. Within that season, he dropped down to 25 minutes a game, and he only averaged 13 points per game that season. The next season, in 2020, that's when the Boston Celtics, they made the conference finals, starring Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown once again as a dynamic duo. He did average 48% field goal percentage, and he did boost himself minutes played to 34 minutes a game, and he averaged around 20 points a game. So we've seen the direction of Jaylen Brown increase within so. And let's not forget, guys, he got the buzz cut, he grew the beard. Just like what Jamal Murray did when he grew the beard, they just go ham. That's just the way it goes. But we've seen more of a mature, composed Jaylen Brown as he's always been. And now within this season, we're focusing here today. Jaylen Brown right now has played 7 games for the Boston Celtics. We all know that he's a shooting guard, a dynamic duo with Jason Tatum. And within Jaylen Brown, he is averaging 34 minutes per game and averaging 28 points within the Boston Celtics. The good thing within Jaylen Brown right now, he kind of resembles to me a young Paul George with a bunch of swag and confidence. His ISO game looks a lot more different. It's more confident. He's been hitting contested jumpers in front of everyone's faces. The Boston Celtics have been blowing out a couple of teams, and whenever the Boston Celtics were close in a couple of these games, Jaylen Brown would be able to take them back into the lead, and then Jason Tatum has finished it off with 2 game winners of this season. I've always predicted the Boston Celtics will be coming out of the Eastern Conference for the 2021 NBA Eastern Conference Finals, and that looks like to be the case right now. They're trending in a good way. They brought in Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson. These are great contending role players for your franchise, and Jeff Teague has taken on a good opportunity since Kemba Walker has been on and off. But within Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're a dynamic duo, a force to be reckoned with. I've seen some cats, they've been saying that Jaylen Brown, this is his team now. I'm not going to go that far. This is still Jason Tatum's team. Jaylen Brown is finally catching up to that, not only an all-star level, but he could reach potentially a star level. I'm not saying that's the case right now. Of course, he's going to make the all-star game. Hopefully, if they actually still planning on doing that. I doubt the NBA is going to do it with COVID, but he should be an all-star this season, quote-unquote. And the Boston Celtics should be one of the top two, if not the top one favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. I'm excited about the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown has been taking this team up with force, and that's a good accountability partner for Jason Tatum to follow alongside with him and vice versa. I'm liking the Boston Celtics. I'm loving how Jaylen Brown's been taking on this NBA season, and when it comes down to it, he reminds me of a young Paul George. His game resembles it a lot. Let's cover more within the NBA. I'm excited to see Boston where they go from now. It's still early, but this seems like it's going to happen in the long run. At the end of the day, when it comes down to Jaylen Brown, he is 24 years of age on the Boston Celtics, and he had a 42-point game against Memphis the other day, of 15 of 21 shooting. So he had a 40-point game. He did have two 30-point games, and then around 3 20-point games. So Jaylen Brown's been very consistent for these 7 games in the NBA, and his shooting percentage on the floor has been very efficient when it comes to the Boston Celtics, shooting around 60%. That's crazy. So we'll cover a little more. I really want to cover next is Christian Wood. All right, next on the list, we do have no other than Christian Wood from the Houston Rockets. Christian Wood has been part of the NBA for around 6 seasons. This is his 7th season, and we kind of had an eye on him, but we just pretty much saw him as a young cat, a role player, and nothing really too much about Christian Wood. His game does resemble a lot in a perfect transition in today's NBA because he is known as to be a stretch 4. But when it came down to Christian Wood in his career, he's always been kind of bounced around from team to team. Starting in the 2015-2016 NBA season, he was 20 years old as a rookie, playing on the Philadelphia 76ers. Within that team, there was a lot of potential that a player saw in him, but the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers at that time, Brett Brown, Brett Brown never saw the potential, didn't use him the correct way, and that's something Christian Wood kind of held against him. He was always bounced around the next season into Charlotte, Toronto, Milwaukee, New Orleans. Last season was Detroit, and they decided to pay Mason Plumlee over Christian Wood, which was a slap in his face. But he's finally in a perfect situation playing with the Houston Rockets. He's now playing with the contender. That's number 1. Number 2, his game fits very well as a stretch 4 and or as a stretch 5. And within the Houston Rockets system, that's exactly what they do. They need stretch 4s, stretch 5s who can shoot the 3, and somewhat as well can be dynamic when the opportunity is present. So when we're looking into the career of Mr. Christian Wood, I knew whenever he got when he got traded to the Houston Rockets, even if James Harden was playing or not, he would be an ideal fit for the James Harden system, let alone the system for Houston. Now, he was a top 3 player for me to be one of the most improved players out there. I also threw out Michael Porter Jr. when it came to one of my cases. And then there was another player too, I can't really remember as of right now. But right now, Christian Wood has been balling out for the Houston Rockets. He's one of the main stories alongside with Jaylen Brown, which is exciting to be if you're the Houston Rockets and if you're trying to rebuild for the future, but also if you're James Harden. Harden deep down wants to stay in Houston, and now we've actually seen DeMarcus Cousins with John Wall. They're looking great out there. I'm not going to lie, the Houston Rockets are looking elite as can be. I did have the Houston Rockets if James Harden had his head on straight, he was on the team, and they all came together. My predictions on an earlier video was the Rockets could be a 3rd seed in the Western Conference. Now, I don't expect James Harden to get traded. I still expect John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and Christian Wood to be as a unit and have their potential. So it's looking like a good trend if you're the Houston Rockets as of right now. Christian Wood so far has been playing very well this season, averaging around 24 points a game, 55% shooting, 11 rebounds a game, and 2 assists, which is wild. It's wild as can be because during the earlier of his first 3 seasons, he was just averaging around 3 points a game and around only 2 rebounds. And then with New Orleans and Detroit the next 2 seasons, he actually bumped it up to around 15 points a game for both seasons. But now he's standing at around 24 points a game. He is starting alongside PJ Tucker as your 4 and 5 on the Houston Rockets. I know with Mike D'Antoni last season, they let go very small. And I think this is more traditional. This is a better fit. You can actually put PJ Tucker and Christian Wood at your 4 and 5. They can stretch the floor together, and you don't have to go too small. And the good thing with Christian Wood, he can take you off the dribble. He can drive in. He is very dynamic and elite that way. This is going to be very scary if you're the rest of the Western Conference looking at the Houston Rockets. Now, we got to make sure James Harden gets his head on straight and he's committed this season. Now, I'm actually starting to see James Harden's actually going to start liking that idea more and more. But for Christian Wood, he's going to have to be one of the top 2, him and Jaylen Brown, for most improved player as of right now. It's still early in the league. It's only been around 5 to 7 games for each team. But I wanted to give my little early address when it comes to this because this is something you can't bat your eye on. So Jaylen Brown, Christian Wood, let me know down below what you guys think about them. Maybe any other stats I was missing of and your expectations for both of them and their teams. But it's looking good for both. I'm excited.